What's good, y'all? We back with another Dragon's Dogma video, and I'm glad I wrote this down because I almost forgot about this video. So, after no new news at TGS, I had to ask myself, what's next for the Dragon's Dogma franchise? Another anime? Nah, I hope not. Not unless they follow the actual lore this time. Dragon's Dogma 2 DLC, Dragon's Dogma 3, Dragon's Dogma Online 2, maybe a Dark Arisen remake. Why not release Dark Arisen for the third time? It's not like Bethesda didn't release Skyrim 5 times, right? As much as I love Dragon's Dogma 2, sometimes you have to move on to the next project. So that's when Dragon's Dogma 3 comes in, right? Sometimes third time's the charm, you know? And I don't mean that to say that Dragon's Dogma 2 is a bad game. I'm saying that to say that maybe Capcom realized that there is actually some popularity or some hope for this franchise. Let me ask y'all this. Do you still think Dragon's Dogma is a niche franchise? Well, if it is still a niche franchise, I think a third game could bring it into the mainstream. Any new Dogma content could bring it into the mainstream, really. If they do it right. That's if they do it right. Now, to play it safe, I would love to see a Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen remake. Yes, for the third time, give me Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen. With the graphical fidelity of Dragon's Dogma 2. Give us some ox carts if that's possible, the improved climbing mechanics, the heavy attack finishers, but keep the more arcadish gameplay and physics. That's just me being realistic though. If I'm gonna go above and beyond, I'm gonna say give us the rest of Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen. Give us the whole game, the cut content. Give us the Beastren race, give us the elves. Give us the second region that was supposed to be in the original game. But hey, that might be asking too much. And yes, for the Dragon's Dogma 2 only fans, the Beastren and the elves were supposed to be in the first game. But enough about Dark Arisen remake. What about Dragon's Dogma Online 2? Sign me up. No, really, why Dragon's Dogma Online was never released outside of Japan still blows my mind. I didn't even get to play DDO, but what you can do in DDO, I was expecting some of those features to make it over in the Dragon's Dogma 2. Apparently in Dragon's Dogma Online, you can customize your room. I always wondered what are pawns doing in Dragon's Dogma Online while the Arisen are out. So if you don't take your pawn out with you, apparently they just stay at the house. Yeah, they just chilling at the crib. Crafting. Yeah, armor, weapons, items, potions, whatever you need, they can craft it for you apparently. Imagine in Dragon's Dogma 2 if you wanted to play solo, instead of just throwing your pawn in the brine.
Have I incurred your wrath in some respect, Master? You haven't forgotten us, have you, Master?
Huh?
It is an amalgam of several features.
They could just stay at the house. So now if you want to go out and save the world by yourself, at least you got your pawn at home crafting you some new armor. Instead of swimming in the brine. Dragon's Dogma Online is also the perfect example of why Dragon's Dogma could actually work online. A lot of the fans say it doesn't need to be online. Well, Dragon's Dogma Online says otherwise. But hey, I don't want to spark that debate today. If y'all want to spark that debate in the comments, go ahead. But what else did I have to say about Dragon's Dogma Online? The enemy variety in Dragon's Dogma Online. Dragon's Dogma Online probably has more enemy variety than Dragon's Dogma 1 and 2. Okay, so I just looked that up real quick. There are 48 enemy types in Dragon's Dogma 1. There are 54 enemy types in Dragon's Dogma 2. Doesn't seem like it, right? I know. But there are 91 enemy types in Dragon's Dogma Online. You know what? Now that I think about it, I think I want Dragon's Dogma Online 2 more than anything now. Okay, so moving on to Dragon's Dogma 3. Like I said earlier, third time's the charm, right? We need better monster variants, something close to Dragon's Dogma Online, a more cohesive story. I like the story, but it just seemed like they kind of dropped the ball halfway through. I like what they was going for. I kind of was feeling the whole political thing. I like the concept of the whole false Arisen thing. I think it should have been a boss fight at the end. His pawn should have had boss health bars. Wait, speaking of boss health bars and boss fights, where were the boss fights in Dragon's Dogma 2? There weren't any real boss fights. And don't say Talos because you can just walk right past him. He's optional too. Every boss fight in Dragon's Dogma 2 was optional. Even the red dragon is optional, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, but can't you just God's Bane and go straight to the Unmoored World, making them optional? Plenty of games turn bosses into regular enemies later on in the game, but the Griffin fight, the first Griffin encounter in Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen, it felt like a real boss fight. What happened to the cinema? The whole journey to the Blue Moon Tower leading up to the chase of the Griffin and then meeting the Griffin at the top of the tower. It was just pure cinema. The camera angles, everything was just perfect in my opinion. In Dragon's Dogma 2, everything is just a field boss. There are really no boss fights. I know I'm not the only one who wants more moments like this if we ever get a third game. Even for the dragon fight, the way Grigory chased us down that narrow hall and then how we had to get to the ballista and shoot the ballista at him, we get like a whole sequence and interaction with him before the actual fight. In Dragon's Dogma 2, he just shows up like, alright bro, you know what time it is, you played the first game, let's go handle business. So we need more epic boss fights in 3. I like the added camping system, maybe flesh it out more akin to Monster Hunter Wilds, keep the ox cart system of course. I like how Dragon's Dogma 2 added more settlements. We have Vernworth, Harv, Melv, and the Thief Village where Darrow the False Arisen is from, and camps and Trisha's house if you want to count those, and that's just for Vermont. So if we do get more Dogma, what would you prefer? I think I'm leaning more on Dragon's Dogma Online too. Just less MMO-ish though.